Stay tuned now for a WIOX special live radio television simulcast of A Wing and a Prayer, an open eye theater production zoomed to you on MTC Cable 20 and WIOX Community Radio 91.3 in the Catskills. I'm Carol Schwartz, host of Even the Score.
And I'm Artie Schwartz, host of Talk of the Town. Tonight, we're presenting this special program with the Open Eye Theater. Amy Brockway, the artistic director of the Open Eye Theater, approached me about the play and its significance to the work of the Catskill Addiction Coalition, a local organization dedicated to developing a strong and supportive community for everyone. As a member of the CAC, I appreciate this opportunity to share the play with you, and afterwards, an opportunity to hear from a panel of experts in the field of substance abuse. Welcome, Amy. Take it away.
Good evening, Arnie and Carol, and thank you for inviting the Open Eye Theater to your programs. The Open Eye Theater, based in Margaretville, New York, has been bringing exciting new plays and theater artists to the Catskill Mountains for 30 years. We've also helped to train and nourish local theater artists. And tonight we are especially proud to bring you Anne Barone's new play, A Wing and a Prayer. Anne began to work on this play in a Writers in the Mountains workshop that I was teaching a few years back called Where Does a Play Come From and Where Can It Go? Later on, after the performance, Anne can tell you about how the play came to be and how it developed into the performance you'll hear and see on your screen tonight. That's also when you'll meet the actors and stage manager in a conversation with Arnie, Carol, and me, and you'll be introduced to a panel of professionals from the Catskill Mountain organizations that will join the discussion about the topic of substance abuse. And now I want to bring you our stage manager, Darlene DeMailey, who will introduce you to tonight's performance. Hi, Darlene.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. I'm excited about our play tonight, and written by Anne Barone, A Wing and a Prayer. And I'd like to tell you who the characters are. The characters are Kathy Callahan, played by Rebecca Newman, Jennifer Callahan, played by Irene Keeney, Tara Callahan, played by Michelle McCow, and Dylan Callahan, played by Erwin Carl. The setting is a house on a lake in upstate New York, mid-morning, early autumn, 1985. At rise, Dylan rushes into the house to see his sister, Tara.
Tara, where are you? What is so urgent you couldn't just tell me over the phone? I'd like to finish the house before winter. It's hard to do that with interruptions like this.
Well, it's about time you got here. I've been running around all morning.
I was in the middle of sheetrocking, for God's sake. I was almost done.
I'm glad to hear that, but you may have to postpone things for a while.
What do you mean, postpone things? You knew I was planning on moving in soon. What's the problem?
When Grandma left me this house, she had me promise to take care of you and Kathy if ever there was trouble. I didn't realize what responsibility that would be until now. I'm going to need you to chip in with this one, Dylan.
It sounds serious. You're not sick, are you? Pregnant?
No, but there could be an addition to the family.
Would you get to the point already?
I got a call from social services this morning about Jennifer. Kathy left her alone and hasn't been back for days.
What?
You heard me. I think she has a drinking problem. It could be drugs too, for all I know.
Oh, wow. This is bad. Where is her husband? what's his name? John?
Apparently Jennifer told Julie Thomas, that's the social worker. He's been out of the picture for a while. They haven't been able to locate him. I can't believe this is happening now.
That bastard. Why didn't she tell us?
Who knows? There are a lot of unanswered questions. Let's face it, she might be our sister, but we're not exactly close. The main thing is, if we don't take Jennifer, she'll go into the foster care system, and we do not want that. I told this woman, Julie, that Jennifer can stay here. I hope you're on board with that because it might be the only way we can swing it.
Yeah, of course. Let's go get her.
It's not that simple. They have to approve where she goes.
Oh, I didn't think of that. They'll do a background check. Man, one stupid mistake can sure follow you around.
Oh, don't get caught up in that now. You have 3 good years under your belt and plenty of character references. That has to count for something. This is the best situation for Jennifer. I'm here during the day and you'll be here at night. At least that's what I'm counting on. And we have plenty of room, and she's family after all. They shouldn't refuse.
Hopefully. The poor kid must be so scared. The last time I saw her, she was just a little thing running around after butterflies. I can't imagine how she must have grown.
Well, you'll find out this afternoon. She'll be here with the social worker.
Talk about short notice.
Well, I had to hurry. I couldn't risk having her placed with someone else. I'm taking off work tonight and you'll be here, of course. I'm getting the spare room ready now, and I've got stew in the crock pot. You can rake the yard, at least around the walkway, and I might need some last minute things from the store. Oh, and before they get here, put on a nice shirt.
Now you're going too far.
Well, just tidy up the best you can and let me do most of the talking.
Anything else?
Yeah, you might say a prayer. Now get moving. We don't have much time.
Lights out. Lights up, stage right. Kathy in chair, talking to the counselor.
I remember going out with some of my coworkers that night. It was Friday night, and I was looking forward to it. I had stopped drinking for an entire week, and I was proud of myself. At first, I didn't plan on staying late, so I had a Coke. And then I thought, I'm doing so well, maybe I could have just one drink. So I had a rum and Coke. I was going to go home after that, but of course, things didn't turn out that way. I don't know how to explain it. It was like I was on automatic pilot. I tried to resist having another drink, but my friends ordered another round and I just went with it. We were we're all in a good mood and I was having fun for the first time in a long time. I felt really relaxed and I didn't want it to end. I don't remember what else happened that night. I could have gone to a friend's apartment. I'm just not sure. I had cuts and bruises, but I don't know how I got them. I suppose I might have fallen. It's all kind of hazy. But the last thing I recall is sitting on a park bench, crying my eyes out. I was confused and so ashamed. It was very early morning, near dawn. I thought I was alone. But when I wiped away my tears, I realized there was a woman sitting next to me. We sat quietly for a while. She was the one who brought me to the hospital. She paid for the cab and she took me inside. When I got out of the examination room, she was gone. I never got her name. I wanted to thank her. The doctor said I was very lucky. I wasn't raped. I never had a blackout before. I never want it to happen again. But the worst part was that my daughter was waiting for me. She lets herself in after school and starts dinner for us. She's a good girl. She never gives me any trouble. I was trying to stop drinking for my daughter's sake. I'm a good person and a responsible mother. Ever since her father left, it's been rough on the two of us. I'm all she has. I've got to get out of here. I've got to explain to my little girl that I didn't mean for this to happen.
Lights out. Lights up, stage left. Jennifer, alone near the lake.
I don't like it here. I want to go home. Why'd you have to stay away for so long, Mom? Why didn't you come home from work like you always do? I didn't know where you were. I thought you were dead. I had to let someone know. But maybe I should have just run away. I have friends that would have hid me till you got back. If Mrs. Thomas hadn't come, I wouldn't be here. Aunt Tara and Uncle Dylan might be your family, but I don't know them. They said if I didn't come here, I would have had to go to a foster home. Oh, Mommy, please come get me. I'm scared. I hate you, Dad, wherever you are.
Jennifer picks up a stone and throws it at a small island in the lake, which disturbs a Canada goose hiding behind a large willow tree.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I didn't see you behind that tree. I hope I didn't hit you with that stone. Your wing looks crooked. Was it like that already? I don't think I did that. My name's Jennifer. I'm staying in the house with my uncle and aunt. They took me in because I was alone too. I had to start a new school where I don't know anyone. You see, my mother's sick and had to go away to get better. After that, she's gonna come get me and we'll go back to the city where I belong. It's too quiet here. The city is way different. There are more people and lots to do. Maybe you've seen it when you fly over. Don't you go south for the winter? Oh, right. You can't do that right now. Well, you can still swim, can't you? I'll ask Uncle Dylan if there's anything he could do to help you. He has a boat. I haven't gone in it yet, but when I do, I'll come over there and see you if you let me. Well, I better go inside. My uncle should be home soon, and I have to set the table. I promise not to throw any more stones. It's a pretty willow tree you're standing under. That's what I'll call you, Willow. I think I can see you from the bedroom window. I'll look and let you know tomorrow.
Jennifer goes in the house, lights off. Lights up, center stage, Tara writing at desk.
Jennifer has been here a week. It's a big adjustment for all of us. Dylan and I are trying to make her as comfortable as possible. I'm finally getting to know my niece and making up for lost time. Kathy turned up at the hospital and fortunately was not seriously injured. I was right about the drinking. She's been taking pills too. This could have turned out much worse. They got her in detox and then she'll go to rehab. First Dylan, now Kathy. Community service and court-ordered meetings did the trick for him, but I'm not so sure about Kathy. I don't know what she was up to living in the city. From what she told me, I thought she had it pretty good. I was even a little jealous. Little did I know. Now that I think about it, there were times she was slurring her words on the phone. When she moved downstate, we grew apart. I figured that was the way she wanted it, but I missed her. Now, she doesn't have much choice but to have me in her life. And Jennifer is such a sweet child, and I want things to turn out well for her. Taking care of Grandma took a lot out of me, but at least she paid off this house before she died. God bless her for that. And for putting up Dylan's bail after that fight in the bar. I just hope Kathy does as well as Dylan, and that's the end of it. Oh, it would be so nice to go on a vacation someday. I could really use one.
Lights out. Lights up on Dylan sitting in a chair addressing his AA meeting.
Hey everyone, Dylan, alcoholic. As most of you know, I had a big change in my life recently. My 11-year-old niece came to live with me. Well, actually, me and my older sister are taking care of her while my other sister, the kid's mother, is in rehab. Apparently, she had problems we were unaware of and went MIA. Must have been on a bender for close to a week, and the kid was by herself. The father is out of the picture, so he was no help. Either we took care of her, or it was foster care. There was no way I wanted that to happen. She's family after all, even if we hardly ever saw each other. She's a good girl, quiet and obedient, but I've never had kids. I could barely take care of myself at one time. I did have 2 sisters, so I know what girls are like, but maybe that's not enough. My sponsor has more faith in me than I have in myself. He says I'm ready for this and it's good for me. I've got 3 years clean and sober, and I'm working steady. People are starting to trust me again. I don't lose my temper the way I used to. But this is different. A responsibility I didn't expect. It's pressure. I know, one day at a time. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Like I said, she's been quiet and I don't want to ask too much. Sometimes it's hard to know what to talk about, but the practical things like going to school or what we'll eat that night. The other day, she started asking me about geese, what they eat, when they migrate. She's a city kid. All she knows is pigeons. She couldn't even have a pet in that apartment. So she's asking me about things I know. To be honest, it's a little scary. She's growing on me and I feel protective towards her. What if I mess this up? She needs me and I want to be there for her. If it weren't for these meetings, I'm not sure I could do it. I have a lot to be grateful for. Thanks for letting me share.
Lights out. Lights up on Dylan approaching Jennifer in the yard.
Hey kiddo, what you doing?
Looking at that goose on the island. I wish there was something we could do for him. He's all by himself.
Well, I do know someone we could ask. My friend Jim is a veterinarian, an animal doctor. He could take a look at it for us.
Really? That would be great. Then maybe he could fly.
Well, there's no guarantee, Jennifer. Sometimes you have to let nature take its course. Listen, I want to talk to you about your mother.
Did you hear anything? Is she all right? Is she coming to get me?
One thing at a time. First off, she is okay. She's in a type of hospital. It's called rehab. The reason your mom left you alone is because she got sick. You see, she has an addiction disease and they are treating her for it. In the rehab, she will learn how to manage it and stay well. It's almost like she is in school and needs to learn what to do to be healthy again. It's going to take time, but she is getting better.
I hope it doesn't take too long. I miss her so much. I thought maybe she didn't want to come home because of me. When my dad was home, they used to argue, and I felt like that was my fault.
Don't you go thinking any of this was your fault. That's adult stuff. Your mother loves you and didn't mean for this to happen. She wasn't thinking right because she took something and had a bad reaction, like an allergy. She'll learn about that where she is and be more careful in the future.
Why do people drink, Uncle Dylan?
A lot of reasons. For one, it's available. I think most people do it out of curiosity or because everyone else is doing it. And some discover it gives them what they feel they don't have, like courage or a sense of belonging. Sometimes it's to escape their problems. They feel better for a little while. And that's the key here, Jennifer. It's only for a little while. Unfortunately, if you keep it up, the consequences are bad, like what your mother is going through and what I went through.
You?
Your Uncle Dylan isn't as perfect as he might seem. I've had my share of trouble in the past, but I got better. The same can happen with your mother. People can change. Listen to me. The day is going to come when someone will offer you something, a beer, maybe a joint or a pill, and you'll think about trying it. You might even think, just this once won't hurt. It'll be your choice, but I really hope you remember what I'm telling you and stay away from it. You'll save yourself a lot of misery. I'm sorry you can't see your mother right now. As soon as she feels better, we'll go for a visit. Aunt Tara and I are here for you if you want to talk. In the meantime, you can always write her a letter. I know she would love to hear from you. You must have a lot to tell her, especially about your new friend out there on the island.
Yeah, I do. You really think a letter will cheer her up?
Sure it will.
I'll get started right away. Oh, and thanks, Uncle Dylan.
She kisses him on the cheek and runs away. Lights out. Lights up on Jennifer writing at her desk.
Dear Mom, I miss you a lot. Aunt Tara and Uncle Dylan are nice to me. Aunt Tara's a good cook. She's going to show me some of Grandma's recipes. Aunt Tara is a nurse and works at night, so we can do it after school before she leaves for work. Uncle Dylan's here at night with me. They have a dog named Gracie. She's a golden retriever. I love her. Aunt Tara takes Gracie to the old people's home to cheer them up. She said I can come with her on Saturday. I like being near the lake. There's a Canada goose that has a broken wing. He stays on a small island in the middle of the lake. There's a willow tree on it. Uncle Dylan says that the tree's gotten much bigger since you were there. I asked if he could help the goose, who I named Willow. He had his friend Jim go up on the boat to the island to see it. Jim wrapped its wing against the body and gave it some special feed with vitamins. He said it's called an angel wing and that there's a good chance it will heal because it's not too bad. Jim's an animal doctor, a veterinarian. I had to get a dictionary to find the spelling of that. I would like to do what he does. I'm going to get some books out of the library about it. I can't wait to see you again, Mommy. Please get better fast. Love, Jennifer.
Lights out. Lights up. Kathy sits on a couch in rehab sketching on a pad. Tara walks in carrying an oversized tote bag.
Tara, I didn't think I was allowed to have visitors this week.
I got clearance, considering you were up to it. and the
Is Jennifer with?
circumstances.
Is Jennifer with you?
Oh, no, it's just me. She's fine. I think the fresh air agrees with her. She misses you, of course.
I'm so sorry about all of this. Thank you for taking her. I guess you found out John isn't around. It's been 3 months.
That must have been hard for you and Jennifer. I'm glad Dylan and I could help. You gave us an awful scare, Kathy. Thank God you're okay.
I'm just beginning to understand why it happened, but it doesn't take away the guilt.
It will get better. The important thing is you're getting help. I wish you had let me know what you were going through. I'm your sister. You seem to have forgotten that.
I didn't want to bother you. Besides, I've always been so independent. I guess everything just caught up with me.
It's all right to lean on someone. We're your family, and we'll do all we can to get you through this. As a matter of fact, I was thinking maybe you would consider moving in with me and Dylan when you get out. I spoke to him about it this morning. He's been clean and sober for a long time, so he's doing something right. You could go to meetings with him. It would be safer for Jennifer.
It isn't so easy, Tara. There's my job in the apartment, and Jennifer has her friends in school.
You could be here for a while. I took the liberty of enrolling Jennifer in school. I didn't want her to get behind. It's important that you focus on your recovery, Kathy. We can figure the rest out later. I just wanted you to know that there are other possibilities for a living situation.
Well, it just happened so fast. There's a lot to think about. I'm not ready to make any decisions now.
I didn't mean to overwhelm you. You don't have to decide yet. When you're ready, discuss it with your counselor. There's still time. Oh, well, I'd better get going. They said only 10 minutes. I brought you this. It's one of Grandma's. I think she would want you to have it.
Her hands were always busy, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. It was hard for her to slow down as she got older. Of course, it was downhill after that fall she took in the yard. I think this was the last Afghan she made. She always asked about you. It was hard for her to understand how you could move away.
I had things I wanted to do. I had dreams, Tara.
I know.
But things don't always work out the way you imagine. I regret not seeing her more. There just never seemed to be enough time.
She never stopped loving you. None of us did.
I'm sorry. I never helped out with her care.
Well, it's not like we're living across the road.
You always take care of everyone, Tara. No wonder you became a nurse. You didn't need this, too.
There's no point in talking like that, Kathy. I told you, I'm glad to do it. I love Jennifer. She's a great kid. Just concentrate on getting better, will ya?
Sure. Thanks for everything. Give Jennifer my love and tell her I'll see her as soon as I can.
I will. Think about what I said. I'll talk to you soon.
Lights out. Lights up on Kathy getting into Dylan's car.
Your chauffeur, madame.
Dylan, just you? Where is everyone?
Back home making you a special lunch.
Ah, sweet. That has got Tara written all over it.
She obviously doesn't know how dangerous we can be together. What do you say we stop at a bar before we get home? So,
I'm okay, really.
I never went to rehab. Was it like a spa?
It wasn't the Betty Ford clinic, Dylan. But I hear even Elizabeth Taylor had to do chores.
She made being in recovery somewhat respectable.
And acceptable. I mean, if she could get hooked on something, any of us can. All I know is I feel much better. And my head is cleared up, and it was time to leave that place.
Now the real work begins.
So they tell me.
It's a plus that you got that kind of treatment, though. This isn't a sprint, Kathy. It's long distance. And even when you think you get to the finish line, there's more. This might feel all shiny and new right now, but it doesn't stay that way. You're more protected when you have support. That's my experience, for what it's worth.
I never want to feel that bad again, and I'll do everything I can for my daughter.
I know you will. You're doing great. Just take it slow. They don't call it recovery for nothing.
Lights out. Lights up on Dylan at an AA meeting.
Hey, everyone. Dylan, alcoholic. My younger sister just got out of rehab. She didn't stick it out as long as we hoped, but it's better than nothing. At least she is making regular meetings during the day. I'm thinking since she is doing well, I might be able to finish working on my house. It's been getting a little tense living with two sisters. They needed me to help with my niece, but now not so much. The older one means well, but she can be a bit of a bit bossy. I can't get her to understand you don't have to be on top of people all the time. No one has to sign a court slip for me to be here anymore. I come voluntarily because I know it keeps me sober. This place is my lifeline. Out there in the world, you don't get that kind of understanding. I'm working hard on these steps. She should only know what it takes to do this program, but I don't think she ever will. She never took a drink in her life, vowed not to touch a drop on account of my father. She was smart, I'll give her that. As for me and my other sister, we broke the rules. We thought we could get away with it. Now we pay the price. But for how long? What I'd like to know is, when do people trust us again? Or does that never come back? That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Lights out. Lights up on Jennifer on the island with the goose.
I hope you feel better now that your wing is healed. You sure put up a struggle when Jim wrapped it, but you were a good patient when he took it off. Maybe you do understand that we're trying to help. I guess you might be getting used to the way it feels before you fly. Jim says you probably never did before. I know you can do it. You just have to try. My mother is staying here now. You probably saw her on the shore. I'm so happy. She really listens to me now, not but like before. The only thing is, Aunt Tara seems different. Like she's worried or something. And Uncle Dylan isn't talking as much. Sometimes I just don't get adults. That's why I like talking to you, Willow. Mrs. Thomas came by the other day and was asking a lot of questions. I wasn't allowed to hear everything they talked about. Made me think about my dad. When I was little, we went on the Staten Island ferry. He held my hand so I wouldn't get lost because there were a lot of people around. Maybe if we just went back to the city, I could see him again. Jim says that your flock will come back even if you don't fly. But I think you should at least try, don't you think? Don't you want to see what it feels like? I wish my dad would come back for me. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Lights out. Lights up on Jennifer running towards Kathy.
Mommy! Mommy!
What is it? Are you okay?
Willow's gone. He's not on the shore or the island. He was there yesterday. I think he might have flown away.
That means his wing is all healed up. That's a good thing. It's what you wanted, right?
Yeah, but what if he loses his way and never comes back? I hope he's okay. I wanted him to get better, but now that he's gone, I don't feel as happy as I thought. I didn't know it would feel like this. I wish I knew for sure if he was all right.
I know it's not easy to let go, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Birds are funny creatures. They have something inside them called instinct. You'll have to look it up in one of your books. Anyway, it tells them where to go and when. They know, you never know, he might fly right back and surprise you. He's probably having a great old time flying up in the air, looking down at everything. When you helped that goose, you gave him a gift. Something he might never have experienced. You're going to make a great veterinarian someday. It was nice of your Aunt Tara and Uncle Dylan to take care of us too. But eventually, we have to leave.
Are we going back to the city?
It's our home. We'll come back here and visit from time to time.
I hope we can stay longer in case Willow comes back. Aunt Tara said that we can.
We don't have to talk about it right now. It's almost time for supper anyway. Let's go inside and help Aunt Tara.
Lights out. Lights up on Tara and Dylan in the house.
Dylan, you've got to do something. Kathy is talking about leaving with Jennifer. She's only been here 2 weeks. Oh, I knew she left rehab too early. She's not thinking clearly.
I think she's doing okay. Did you two have an argument?
Everything has been going so well. I can't understand it. She's not giving this enough time. And what about Jennifer? You've got to convince her to stay, Dylan. She's not ready to be on her own.
I've had plenty of talks with her about recovery and how fragile it is in the beginning. She learned a lot in that rehab. I know how you feel. I'll miss them when they go.
What if something happens? This is irresponsible. We should file for custody.
Stop it, Tara. It was never guaranteed she would stay. She had a life somewhere else. You could make things worse by trying to force this. We'll be here if she needs us again.
Jennifer's finally got some stability in her life. Her father disappearing like that had to scar her. I mean, our father might have been a son of a bitch, but he never left. And you've been a positive role model for her.
I hope so. Does she want to go back?
It's hard to tell. I think she would be doing it for her mother. I would hate to see all the good we've done go down the drain. I can't go through any more of this, Dylan. I'll have a breakdown.
Get a grip, Tara. I'm not sure why you are taking this so hard. but it will be all right.
I don't know how you can be so nonchalant. I guess it's easy when you have no one but yourself to think about.
I'm going to ignore that comment because I know you're upset, more upset than usual, which, by the way, has been no picnic to be around. Did you ever think maybe that's the reason Kathy wants to go? Maybe I should step outside for a while.
No, stay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. I just feel we should be doing more, but I'm not sure what. I keep thinking of Mom and Dad lately. The night they died.
What about it? You never wanted to talk about that before. I always thought you were lucky being the last person to see them alive.
I wish I were at a friend's house like you and Kathy were that night.
Why do you say that? Have you been hiding something?
It's not important. It's in the past.
It might be, but you've got to tell me now. What happened that night?
Don't you understand? I'd rather not talk about it. I wanted to forget. It wouldn't have made a difference if I told anyone. They died in a car accident and they're gone. It's over.
I still think you should tell me. Don't I deserve to know what happened to my parents? Will you please trust me for once, Tara?
Well, you know, Dad had been on the road for 4 days when he got home. He was really hopped up that night. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm sure he was doing some kind of speed to stay awake on that truck. It couldn't have been just coffee. So he was high as a kite. And I remember he grabbed Mom and they were dancing around the kitchen, laughing. And they both started drinking and wanted to go out. And Grandma wasn't around. She went to bed early. At first, I was happy they were getting along. But I knew they had too much to be getting in the car. I tried to convince them to stay, but you know how he could be. He got that mean look in his eyes. I thought he was going to hit me. And Mom got in the middle and told me he just needed to unwind from working so much, that it would be good for him to go out. She said they would be home early. And that was the last time I saw them. And when the phone call came, my heart dropped like a rock. It was like I knew ahead of time. All these years I wondered what I could have done different.
I wish I knew this before. That's an awful last memory to have. Tara, you couldn't stop them any more than you can stop Kathy. It's true. She might relapse. It happens, but it's not in your power to stop it. What happened to our parents was not your fault. It was not your fault. Sometimes there is nothing you can do.
That's the hardest part, isn't it?
Sure is.
Lights out. Lights up on Kathy walking towards Dylan and Tara having coffee at the kitchen table.
You're up early. There's coffee.
I wanted to speak to you both alone. I don't think I could do this, but I wonder if Jennifer could stay here for the rest of the school year. I need to go back to the city. I've got things to do and figure out, and I know she would be in safe hands with you. She likes it here, and I want her to be happy. She's had enough disruption in her life. She might be a little insecure at first, but I trust you'll let her know that I'm coming back. I will be back. You can do that for me, right?
Yes.
Yes. Kathy, I don't know what to say. I never expected this. Of course she can stay here, but are you sure you should go? I know I've been kind of overprotective.
You think? I understand, Tara. You care too much. But you don't have to worry. I intend to follow a program of sobriety while I sort things out with John.
John,
That's right. We've been in touch again. Would you believe he's going through the same thing as me? We're both in recovery. He sounds like a changed man, and I think we might reconcile. I just don't want to get Jennifer's hopes up. So maybe you could keep that quiet and keep it from her until I'm sure about it.
this is kind of sudden, isn't it? I don't know. What do you think about this, Dylan?
Me? Well, I think it's great, Kathy. I hope the two of you can work it out. You don't have to worry about Jennifer. She'll be fine with us. Actually, Tara and I were just talking about Jennifer possibly spending summers here in the future if you move back to the city. She seems to enjoy the country and she's made friends. Hopefully, it won't be too long before things are settled. And while you're gone, if you run into problems or just want to talk, you know where to find us.
What a relief. I was afraid to say anything in case you didn't agree. It wasn't an easy decision, but it means the world to me to have your support. I promise to let you know what I'm doing every step of the way. Hopefully this can be a new beginning for all of us. You've both been so good to me. It's funny to think if this hadn't happened, we might not be together again. I'm so glad that we are.
The end.
You're listening and watching to WIOX special radio television simulcast of A Wing and a Prayer on Open Eye Theater production, zoomed to you on MTC Cable Channel 20 and MTC and WIOX Community Radio 91.3 in the Catskills, and on WIOXradio.org. A Wing and a Prayer was written by Anne Barone and performed by Rebecca Newman, Irene Keeney, Michelle McCow, and Erwin Carl. Now it's time for an important panel discussion about the challenges and opportunities for treating substance abuse, and especially in our rural communities with our local experts, Frank Canavan, Julia Rochelle, Mary Rosenthal, and Joyce St. George. Amy, the floor is yours, or shall I say, the panel is yours.
Thank you, Arnie. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. I would like to invite playwright Anne Barone to join me on the screen.
Hi.
Hi, Anne. Just very quickly, would you, before we bring the actors back on, would you tell us just a little bit about how this play happened to happen?
Well, it originally started as a children's story that I wrote. And at first it was just a goose with a broken wing whose flock left for the winter and he was abandoned. Then I was working with different lengths of the story and I was having trouble. So I added a little girl in there who also was abandoned by her parents. And she came to live with her aunt and uncle. So it was still difficult to get that published and to go anywhere with that. So I put it aside. And many years later, when I took your class, that's when we were doing the monologues. And I pulled that out. I pulled out the monologue of the little girl, and I worked with it, read it to the class, and I was very surprised at the reaction. It was speechless, which I was wondering, gee, is it not good, or what's the story? But I got a positive response, and especially from Gail Lindstrom. She really thought it had potential, and she kept after me. She would email me and say, "Are you working on that? I think that's, I love that story. What are you going to do with it?" And then she mentioned about the Catskill Addiction Coalition, and that they needed a piece for education and prevention. And that's when I started to work on it. And as you know, you and I together, you were reading it for me when I was doing the different drafts. And it just 6 months down the line, we got to the table read and here, where we are today. So that's the story.
There we are. And let's bring out the actors now. Could I have Michelle Macau, Erwin Carl, Rebecca Newman, and Irene Keeney, and stage manager Darlene DeMaile. Come on out. Before we get into more discussion, I think it would be fun to know where you're from. Most of you are from the Catskills, but not all. And certainly not all in the same village in the Catskills. So Michelle, start out. You're muted, actually.
Hi, yes, I'm Michelle Macau, and I'm in Chichester, New York.
Erwin?
Andes, New York.
And Rebecca?
I'm in Margaretville, New York.
And Irene, where are you from?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. Deep in the heart of the Catskills in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And Darlene?
I'm from Hawkesville, New York.
And so we're now going to bring out our panelists. And we have Joyce St. George, and Frank Canavan, Julia Reichel, and Mary Rosenthal. And Carol and Arnie, I hope you'll be on the screen with us too. Okay, so same thing, just a little geography to keep us all kind of connected with where we are in the Catskills. Joyce, where do you live?
I live in the suburbs of Margaretville, New Kingston.
Okay, and Frank, how about you?
Well, I'm in the next room, so I'm with Joyce in New Kingston, yeah.
Julia?
I live in Margaretville.
Okay, and Mary?
I live in Delhi.
Okay, I think we've covered the county now, Delaware County. So what I would like to do is, I want to thank you all for this incredibly beautiful reading of Anne's wonderful play. And I would like to have each of the panelists tell us about the organization that they represent and how they came to be on this panel. So I don't know, who would like to start?
I can start.
Okay.
I'm the executive director of ADAC, the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Delaware County. We provide information, referral services, prevention education, recovery advocacy. And I came to be on this panel because I am a member of the CAC, or the Catskill Addictions Coalition.
Okay. Who's next? Joyce?
Okay. I am also part of the Catskill Addiction Coalition, and have been striving to improve services to those who are addicted, those who are in treatment, and their families. In basically the town of Middletown area, as well as Roxbury and Andes, and our surrounding area, and to create a healthy community. Just little stuff.
Little stuff, right. Julia.
I'm a volunteer with the Catskills Addiction Coalition too. And I also work at Margaretville Hospital, where I run several opioid outreach programs, including one that's aimed at people who might become pregnant and also have substance use disorder, which is just starting up and which is pretty exciting. So like Joyce and Mary, my work is focused on strengthening our community and creating connection. I should add that my work with the CAC really focuses on harm reduction, which I want to define for you. It means that we meet people where they are, wherever they are, in any phase of recovery, including active use of substances. The goal of harm reduction is to help people not die, right? That's really the idea. Instead of getting better or being fixed, it's just to make sure that if people are using drugs, they're using drugs in a way that's safe. And if they're ready for another step on recovery, they can make that step.
Okay, and Frank.
Let's see, I'm a crisis intervention counselor specializing in alcohol counseling and conflict management, certified court mediator, and spent my teaching career or training career with Joyce using applied drama as a training technique. So it's kind of capsulizes a lot of what we've been doing tonight and what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, I would say so. So before we go any further, I would like each of the panelists to just jump in one at a time and talk a little bit about how Anne Barone's play resonates with the work that you do. So anybody just grab that ball and run with it.
Well, and your play is exactly the way it happens. You definitely hit the nail on the head with it. It is what happens in families everywhere. And it's what families go through. Sometimes it's worse than that, but I thought that you did a great job of, really showing us how the interactions with each of the family members and how it came out for them. And I know we talked before about this a little bit, but I think that I would like to know how it ends. So perhaps you can have a second play.
Okay. Yeah, you're not the first person that's asked that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll jump in. So in terms of families, what was really quite good about the play was the way in which you captured different family dynamics that occur, especially during some sort of drug abuse, alcohol abuse situation. So you have the one person who is suffering through or living through addiction, but then you've got the other members of the family reacting to that, one of whom decides that her role will be to try to control and contain the situation, the other one maybe to mediate. And so everybody gets into a dance and they're trying to fix that person who's addicted, and possibly she wants to be fixed, maybe she doesn't want to be fixed. But instead of working with her, at least for the older sister, she's trying to basically almost exorcise the addiction from her younger sister, which is not going to work. But those are typical roles that family members will take on when something like this is going on in a family. And, so what you're seeing is, and I think the fact that you added the mother and father and addiction with them was a plus, because what it told us was that this is not just an isolated case. This is a family that is struggling with hereditary addiction, if you will. And so now you have to look at somebody like Jennifer, who is, I think, 11 years old and living with mother and a father, apparently going through recovery and not knowing where to fit in, how to fit in, who to fit in with. So it's a great example of the kind of family dynamics that go on that create a huge family crisis. And, to the point of how does it end? Very often, not well.
That was my concern. I saw the real victim here being Jennifer, and the play takes place in '85, and you would be curious as to what Jennifer is like now, these 35 some odd years later, and the impact that the disease had on her, and is she continuing the unfortunate family tradition? Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's almost like you see, it's a train wreck ready to happen. There's not a whole bunch you can do about it. Having the mom go back down to the city to be with the father, and you just don't see that ending well. And again, there's a lot of enabling going on. There's a lot of wishful thinking, but some hard choices need to be made, and I don't see them being made. And Anne, you really captured the dynamics there. It was just as Joyce said, each family member is almost assigned the role to play, and it's tragic to see it play out, and it's repetitive. You see it in a lot of families. It's just really scary stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't easy to write, but that was my goal, to portray each character and their role and how everything affected them. And especially the child, the whole abandonment, and how to go forward with that kind of legacy, that history.
Yeah.
I want to point out that it's really easy when we talk about addiction or substance use to think of it as us versus them, right? There's somebody with a problem, an active use problem perhaps, and then there's us, and we're like reacting to the problem. But this play illustrates the fact that actually it's all us, right? Tara actually also has abandonment issues. Jennifer is being abandoned in real time, and that's triggering Tara into reliving her own abandonment issues. And then her mom once again abandons her potentially, right? Like it's more than just like everybody playing a role. It's that everybody is actually capable of every point on this map, right? We're capable of being the abandoned child. We're capable of being the person who's actively having some sort of, really intense interaction with a substance right now. We're capable of being Dylan in his AA meetings, clean and sober, which, one of the things also that I find really interesting about this play is that it focuses on alcohol, right? When alcohol is an enormous issue in our region, but so is meth, so is opioid use, so is polysubstance use. Indeed, polysubstance use, where you do alcohol along with some other substance like an opioid or a benzo. That's what people are doing around here. So AA meetings are really the main support group locally. It's not a coincidence, Anne, that you centered Dylan in his AA meeting as like the point of recovery. That's exactly in real life how it works in the Catskills. There's only like one NA meeting, Narcotics Anonymous meeting, like in the county of Delaware. But that doesn't accurately reflect the need. And again, there's this sort of us versus them thing going on where people who are in AA is established, AA has been around for a long time, whereas people in NA, there's a class structure going on, there's a stigma going on about people who use narcotics or people who use benzos or people who use meth. And all of these things dance around this us versus them problem, whereas it's just so tempting to be like, okay, they're the person with the problem. They're the problem, fix it. And it's us. So I think we're sort of walking through this realization as we watch this and as we parse it, that all of us have the capacity to be any of these characters. And it's vital that we recognize it, right? Tara's little breakdown at the end is like a really good example of like, oh, she's fixing, she's fine, she's got it together, she's a nurse, great, great, great. Oh, wait, actually, she's like not okay at all and needs care and needs attention and love, right? It's not necessarily a happy ending either, right? I think we look at it and go, is this the right thing? Like, what's gonna happen, you know? And that's exactly how it is in real life, right? Like tomorrow, somebody could have another bad day or a bad encounter with a substance. So I just want to urge everybody to think about how we're not okay. Like, I'm not okay. Especially now in this time of increasing stress where overdoses are rising like very, very quickly and people are more isolated. Addiction and just rough interactions with substances is really rampant right now, and connection is vital for all of us.
Yeah, I like to piggyback off that, Julia, the difficulty of maintaining sobriety in a rural setting. Folks who get sober and stay sober in recovery in the city or in metropolitan areas can jump from meeting to meeting to meeting, you know, just that, you know, 90 meetings in 90 day type of thing. And it's is incredibly challenging in the rural setting when you have to drive 45 minutes to a meeting and then 45 minutes home, you know, that can get old real fast. And unless you have ongoing.
Also, you probably don't have a car, Frank. Like there are people who, you know, can't drive to a meeting.
Or a license.
Exactly. So the challenges for somebody maintaining the sobriety in a rural setting is increased. The challenge is much more increased in a rural setting than it is in a metropolitan city, unfortunately. You know?
Yeah. One thing I want to just jump in there about is the idea of sobriety, which definitely this, like, again, Dylan talks about being clean and sober in this abstinent only idealized way. And it's really important to acknowledge that there are many pathways to recovery and not all of them are sobriety. This is a controversial thing to say, especially in our pretty conservative community, but it's very, very true. The goal is for people to not die, right? The goal is for people to lead happy, well lives. And the goal is for kids not to be orphaned, honestly. Like, part of the reason I got into this work is because a bunch of my 11-year-old daughter's friends have scarred families where people are missing because of opioid use. So this is very real. People disappear. And if there's a way to help somebody without necessarily making sobriety be the goal, I think that really widens everybody's scope. And I push this because the language matters, right? Like, you know, if you're in AA and you relapse, do you feel comfortable going back to your AA meeting? Like, it's hard, right? And it happens all the time. So that's something to also acknowledge, is that sobriety isn't necessarily the only way to be recovered or in recovery.
I'd like to jump in here for just a minute, and we will get back to this wonderful discussion that is just so super. But I would like to hear from each of the actors now about how they approached the character, because these are complex characters. As the panelists have just shown, it's not a single thing. And I think maybe the actors can take that even further, that there was a lot of complex work that went into portraying these people that Anne has created. So who could start in on that for us? Maybe Rebecca, could you?
Yeah, well, I do remember when we had the first read through for for our first meeting, and I talked to Anne about that to try to kind of get Kathy's character down, and we talked about whether or not she would be a success. And they asked me that question, what did I think? And I said, I don't think she's going to make it. You know, and what was the reason behind that? Because she jumped out of rehab, then she abandoned her child again to rush down to the city to be with her alcoholic partner who has a codependency. So that was my take on why Kathy would not recover.
Okay, and yet in the process of playing the role, does Kathy have hope? Is she, I mean, what is she attempting to do there?
Well, quite honestly, she's going back to a place where there's more resources. So she may have some better, you know, support down in the city. She also may have access to more bars and more alcohol, and her recovery may look like she would still be drinking. Like Julia said, it might not be complete and total abstinence. She might be able to drink and maybe get her life back in an even keel. You know, there might be that possibility as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But to me, it didn't seem like she was really ready to give up drinking.
Yeah. Okay. Irene, talk to me about how you worked on Jennifer.
Jennifer was a very relatable character to me. I grew up with around a lot of alcoholics and a lot of alcoholism in my family. Nothing as bad as what she went through, but it was still there. My mom was starting to go through it when I was really young, and it got really bad when I was around 11 or 12 before so I was Jennifer's age, but she kind of caught onto it and realized I have 2 kids and I can't be this person for them. And then she got better. She's great. So that was cool. And I do feel bad. I don't think Jennifer will have the same experience. I don't think Kathy's nearly not as strong, but nearly like ready to do that kind or give something up like that for her kid. And I was thinking a lot yesterday about what this kid's gonna do when she grows up, because what I've noticed with alcoholic or children of alcoholics, they are either going to follow the road of their parents or they're just going to swear off any substances, no matter what. And I feel like because Jennifer seems to idolize her mom in a sort of way in this play, I'm not sure if she's ever going to recognize what was happening. I don't know.
Okay, it's a question. Erwin, what can you give us about, you know, this Dylan is quite a wonderful, complex man. I'd like to hear what you've done to create him.
Well, I mean, some of the biographical details. I mean, I started working in the building trades in upstate New York in 1982. So I've been at the time and place he was at. Say alcohol and drug abuse were pretty rampant in the building trades back then. Nowadays, I'd say there's more of a balance between people who abuse substances and people who are in recovery. So working with people in recovery, I had a little insight into, kind of how they're dealing with things, what their concerns are, insecurities or, fears of relapse. So I was able to look at experiences on a personal level, people I've worked with, as well as looking at the bigger picture of Delaware County and the rates of addiction and seeing the effects of it. So I had quite a bit of material to kind of draw upon it, kind of imagine his backstory and what he was thinking, and he was a little remarkable. That he was court ordered to go to AA, and he kept going after he didn't have to get somebody to sign off that he was there. So that's showing somebody who's sticking to the path when it's often a tenuous path to stay on.
Okay, and Michelle, what the older sister. There's so much there. Tell us about it.
Well, Tara is trying to save her family, especially after her parents died and she wasn't able to do what she thought she could do. And I think that's pretty common when something goes wrong and you think you have more power than you do. And so you're always trying to make up for it. You're always trying to make up for that. And then and she's trying to get her family back together in some kind of a way. And she went through all of this with Dylan, and I'm sure she's watching Dylan like a hawk to make sure that he doesn't deviate. And she's dependent on him as well when this situation arises. And she's going to take charge, like she took charge as soon as she got the phone call, and she's got everything, the whole plan, and this is how she's going to resolve. And she has to do that because she wasn't able to do it for her parents. She wasn't able to resolve that. And so this is another opportunity. And then the opportunity falls apart and she's not going to be able to do it. And so that kind of helplessness for someone who needs, like, everything is accounted for. It makes sense that she's a nurse and that she's more scientific minded, and because I can do this, I can take these steps and then things will get better. But of course, there is the unpredictability of human beings. And the fact that we have no power over anybody except ourselves. And I think that is not something that Tara really has any idea about.
Yeah, and you just took the words right out of my brain as I was opening my mouth to say something about the human condition that we've got in this play is just so thick and so multi-textured. And also, it seems to me unending. At one point, some of us were talking about, what the end of the play and what's next, etc. But every day is going to be different, it seems like, for these people and others. And anything that has just been said that you'd like to respond to before I turn it back to the panel?
Well, the topic was a very serious subject, and I wanted to have hope in there. And I think I felt with Dylan, to have an uncle like that who had been down that road and to try to help his niece, I think that was a positive thing. That's the message kind of I had hoped that maybe family or even extended family or neighbors or whoever would get that children need sometimes this explanation and reassurance and to feel safe, even though life isn't always fair and and things happen, it's just nice to know somebody's there with you, that you have somebody, because she was alone. And, when they came to the rescue, it was a great thing, just like she came to the rescue for the goose. It was, that was the positive, the hopeful part, for the possible healing of anybody.
Any panelists have a response to that?
I'd like to jump in because, to Anne's point, when you're in a rural area, such as the Catskill Mountains, there are so few services. There are just limitations on resources and services that, even if you want help, very often it's very tough to find help. And if you find help, you may not have access to transportation to get to that help. You may not have the money for insurance. You may have, I mean, there are so many obstacles to getting well that people in rural areas face. And that's above and beyond being, having peer pressure and having everything else in a very small town where everybody knows what everybody's doing. But what I always like to talk about is the strength of the community and also the interdependence that we share, that we have. And I always liken it, I was saying this, I think, another time, that, we're sort of attached by strings. And if you pull it back the way, say, somebody who's trying to control the situation or fight the situation, you pull it back, it's going to get taut and it may just break. Any kind of salvation is not going to happen. But if you lean in, and I think that was the role that Dylan played, leaning in. And I think that's the role that many of us can play with other people. How many times do you know somebody who is obviously in need of ears, of somebody to just listen? Maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're having a bad time, maybe, you don't know what every life is like. And how many times do we just ignore that person and just keep walking, or just stay on a very superficial level? Sometimes it's worth at least trying to give them that ear and let them know that somebody's going to listen. And even if you've got somebody like Dylan who's been through it, who might be able to be a mentor to a niece or a neighbor or somebody else, then you're maintaining that string, and that interdependence might just help. The last thing I'll say is, one of the things that we don't realize is how much trauma children go through. And I'm not talking about some kids, I'm talking about so many of us have to deal with extraordinary events, extraordinary experiences that we don't understand when we're young, but that will feed our brains, and sometimes it'll become hardwired into us, and we will actually live our whole life with that kind of trauma still operating within our heads. And that's why I'm saying sometimes it's great to have the experts around, but what we need to do is we need to basically work with one another. Know that, as Julia was saying, we're all damaged. We all have stories to tell. We all have things to fix, but we seem to never have time for each other. So the big message, I think, in terms of addiction, in terms of what we're going through right now with COVID, all of the above, is, especially with kids under so much stress these days, give them a little bit of time, lean in, and let the rope sag a little bit so that you can strengthen the relationship.
I just want to add that there's a whole role that exists in the recovery movement now for peers, people who have what we call lived experience with recovery and addiction. And I think we're all talking about like how important it is to have a guide or a friend or just somebody there who's been through it, right? So the role, there's a professional certification that you can get in New York State called a Certified Recovery Peer Advocate, CERPA. And the Catskills Addiction Coalition is doing a lot of work to help train and recruit CERPAs. And there are several other organizations. There's Friends of Recovery Delaware Otsego County that staff CERPAs. And there's another place called Samadhi Recovery Center in Kingston that staffs CERPAs. But I just want to shout out to the fact that these resources are here. People who have been through some kind of addiction and who are still living in recovery today are available like right now. They're a phone call or a Facebook click away to be that ear, to be that connection. So that's something also that the CAC is hoping to beef up more. We have some grant money that we're going to be using to bring more peers into the region. So that's a role that is really important.
For those of you listeners who've just joined us, this is Carol Schwartz from Even the Score. And I want to remind you that we are now offering to you a WIOX special live radio television simulcast of the play A Wing and a Prayer from the Open Eye Theater production, and it's written by Anne Barone. It's zooming to you on MTC Channel 20 and WIOX Community Radio 91.3 in the Catskills. We heard the play earlier, and now we are engaged in a conversation with some experts from the field of substance abuse from our local area, which would include Joyce St. George and Frank Canavan, Julia Rochelle, and Mary Rosenthal. And I'll hand it back to our moderator, Amy Brockway, who is the director of the play.
I'm going to hand it right back to you, Carol and Arnie, because I was just going to ask you to please bring your pictures up on the screen with us and talk to us a little bit about your experience of the play tonight and your thoughts on our panelists and the things that they have been sharing with us.
I was especially impressed with the play. I thought that the actors did a fantastic job. It was very compelling. The dialogue was very real. Thank you, Anne. And I'm especially interested in theater for young people, which the Open Eye Theater is involved with. And I thought this was a very a good opportunity for us to present work that would speak to young people, especially maybe ages middle school and other ages. But it gives having the character of the young girl, it gives us her viewpoint. And I thought that was important for young people listening to this play, because she was struggling with so many issues about her current situation with her mother, her father being left, having the alcoholism in her family. But there was with her also, there was an aura of hope. And I think that was symbolized very nicely by her relationship with the Canada goose, because she was wanting the goose to be able to get well and to move on. And to me, that was her way of internalizing hope for her parents and for her own life. And I think a lot of times that when we do plays for young people, it's important to have, even if we think the ending is ambiguous or possibly not a happy ending, there's some element that you can reach out to with hope. So I really appreciated that element of it. I also, I like the section where Jennifer is asking Dylan, why do people drink? And I thought that was very well presented as you would present it to a young person. So there was a lot that could be discussed just in that answer that Dylan gave if you were having a talk back with young people. So I really appreciated some of these issues that Anne approached, even though it's a play about a family, that there was so much focus on Jennifer and what she was going through, both her positive attitude and her fears. And so I really appreciate it.
Well, to go with what Carol was saying, the idea of getting kids involved as an educator, all I know is that I think doing a drama like this in schools, and I think of Mary and your programs where we could see the kids do this, either Zoom as we're doing it now, or someday hopefully we'll do it live in a classroom and get, as Carol said, get the talk back from the kids. They hopefully can talk without having to be too revealing about what's going on in their own lives. Also, as a counselor, I always try to get kids into groups to talk about things like this, because the communication where kids don't understand or are frustrated and can't talk to their parents and give them a vehicle like this. I know that any kind of conflict that kids can react to, and I know Joyce and Frank have done all kinds of great works with that conflict resolution, where we could actually show a scene where Jennifer having this, just that one act, the one scene about trying to understand what that's about, could be very meaningful, and just work with the kids on that. And the fact that then with us, it would be to tell the parents and the kids that there is support groups to help them. So I loved it. I really enjoyed the play.
Arnie, are you seeing that in a classroom situation or more in a theater-based situation? Where would be the most freedom or the most perhaps productive kind of setting to explore those questions with children?
That's difficult. Of course, right now there's no the theater is closed, but I don't see why either in a classroom, a setting where the kids understand what's going to happen, what they're going to talk about, and give them a chance just to work on it with professionals there to help them. We have great counselors in our schools and other teachers and nurses who could support whatever conversation was going on. So it's sometimes difficult when the theater's even open to have every chair filled and getting schools to come to us. So maybe we need to come to the schools.
What about taking this production and actually allowing it to be used like as a tool for some teachers, showing the production and then later having the kids come back on like we're doing and discuss it in a Zoom?
Yeah, I talked to Amy a little bit about this in the past, that would be wonderful if we could zoom in this particular piece with the teachers to work on it there. And then of course, we're open to not just our limited communities, but wherever we want to send it. I would like to work on that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think, well, we can't underestimate the impact that alcohol and drug abuse has on children, and the stats are staggering as to how many children are exposed throughout the country to a dependent relative. One thing that we can't lose sight of, though, is how resilient children are. There's a huge amount of COA, or children of alcoholics, throughout the country that are living normal, productive, incredible lives and have been able to work through the trauma that their loved ones have gone through. And I think it's we can lose sight of that. And I don't want to do that, because it's really important to know that the help is there, and that the children can bounce back, whether as Jennifer's age or as they grow older, even into adulthood, so it's important to remember that, I think.
I'm
Yes.
wondering what role, though, if there were a child who was there in such traumatic situations, if there were no friends, counselors, listening ears to help them walk through it at some point in their lives, how hard it would be for them to come through the traumatic situation, resilient or not. Somehow it seems that there is an important role for others to play in helping children, each other, whatever, to come through it. Can anyone speak about that? Am I off base about that, or?
No, Amy, you're not. That's a problem, I think. We, like Frank said, they are resilient, but so many times they stuff these emotions, they don't talk about them, or they don't think it's abnormal. That's a big thing. I see that all the time in our work with the children. They think it's a normal life, that's the way it is in their family. And to them, that's the way it is in everybody's family. So for us to bring something like this and be able to open up the avenues for them to talk and make them realize that it isn't what every family is about. I think it's a really good play that would, you'd want to only show parts of it, like Arnie said. I believe it would be Jennifer's role, and maybe some interactions with her mom. But I think it's important to let students, kids know that this is not normal, that, it might be this way in their home, but that's not what it's like outside their home, because they truly believe that it's normal, that everybody's going through this.
But the abandonment. Someone pointed out that Jennifer had experienced the abandonment of two parents.
Right.
A lot of kids, I think, experience the abandonment of one, and then the other parent steps in and becomes the props that hold the child up for a long, long time. But experiencing abandonment from two parents is almost it's almost unthinkable for some of us if we try to put ourselves there.
And it's not just abandonment, it's rejection. When somebody is troubled, preoccupied by whatever, their own trauma, and they have a child, and that child is feeling very rejected, that can become very traumatizing as well. You could have both parents in the house, but that doesn't mean that that child feels accepted, valued, significant, loved. So all of those negative emotions are things that really affect kids. One of the things that we did, Frank and I did in a prior life with drama, is we had a lot of work in high schools and even junior high schools, and we actually had the kids write the plays. And it was amazing what they would come up with. You want to talk about realism, and also hope. Children have a way of taking in so much information, experience, and translating it dramatically if they're given an opportunity to. And so that's a whole nother vehicle that we used, and many other groups use that as well. And it allows the children to not have to say your words or my words. They're saying their words. And now we're left to try to interpret them. And it's a very exciting process.
Hey, yeah, Michelle.
Well, I have a question based on some of the information that I've been hearing. I've been hearing that there are not enough resources in the county and that it's difficult for people who want to get help to get help. And then I'm also hearing that there are different ways of getting help that are maybe cross county. And so if folks have that need help, what is it that they can do to get help?
Call Julia
Or Mary.
or Mary.
Right.
And
There's
the reason I said Julia, Mary and I know this. One of the problems that we've had here in the southeastern part of Delaware is that Delhi, which is where Mary is and other services are, is about a half hour away, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you don't have a license or if you don't have a car, it can become an issue, especially if you're supposed to be there 2 or 3 times a week for counseling or whatever. And so the reason that the Catskill Addictions Coalition came into being was to serve this part of Delaware County, because we really didn't have very much of anything, and we've been trying to build some capacity. The reason I talk about Julia is because Julia has been coordinating this effort now for over a year and has brought, along with Mary's collaboration, has brought recovery coaches down this way. We've been able to build some peer recovery coaches positions, and we've been able to work with the local hospital and even the sheriff's department to try to improve the services to people who are addicted or those who are living with people who are addicted. That's fairly new. And I know Sydney, the other town of city of Sydney, is doing something similar. And so what's happening in these regional rural areas is that we're having to take it upon ourselves to build capacity. And I think that that's how you get so many of these services. They're not something that the state provides or regions. It's not something like that. It's a few people who get together and say, this is what we're going to do, and take the time to get it done so that the services can be there. So if you're in the town of Middletown, Roxbury, Andes, Grand Gorge, and you can't make it up to where Mary is, you could always look for Julia in Margaretville, because she's the one who's going to be in our area. And I guarantee she'll be on the phone with Mary trying to figure out the best options for that particular person and the resources that they need.
We've collaboratively made a bunch of jobs appear this fall. So the hospital is going to be hiring a full-time wellness coordinator. Full-time wellness coordinator. Amazing. This person is going to be able to take, yeah, it's super cool. We're hiring anybody who wants to apply for this job. Go to, oh boy, I don't even know Google Margaretville Hospital or go to the Catskills Addiction Coalition and email us. But right, Joyce is right. Just creating actual money paying jobs for people who are here to help sort of anybody who walks in, right, was the goal of all of this coordination and grant writing, which has now borne some fruit. So the next step is to hire people who can do this work, and who, it's tough work. The thing about working with addiction is that addiction is really rough on everybody. It's just hard, as this play illustrates. You know, people have demons and they come up, all of us again. So So I sit in the newly renovated downstairs floor of the Huggins building at the Margaretville Hospital campus 5 days a week right now. And the idea is for people to be able to walk in there just and kind of be like, hey, I need this, I need that help. We're going to do several low barrier services there, one of which will be a parent pantry where you can get diapers or formula for free. No questions asked, no names taken. Just you need it, come on in. And we will also be giving out Narcan, and I will be training people with how to use Narcan, and so will my hopefully soon to be beefed up staff. So if you're interested in working in that kind of environment where people will be coming in and just kind of presenting themselves to be like, hey, I'm here and I would like to sort of see what's available. The idea is to be non-judgmental, accessible, and like no pressure. You know, you don't have to do anything. You certainly don't have to be abstinent or be like sober. You can just show up, and you know, if you need something, I will certainly try to help. And also, you know, tap our networks. We have a pretty big network now where we can call and ask people for things. So yeah, I'd love Mary to weigh in a little bit about what ADAC offers for folks too.
We offer a lot. I don't even know where to begin. We are a resource, so we have all kinds of information about any drug or recovery place that you could want. We have all the listings of all the meetings, live and on internet now, because a lot of them are still, you know, doing it via Zoom. We also collect clothes at our office that we give out to anybody who needs them. A lot of times I have a recovery coach that's housed out of my office, which is a peer coach, as Julia's been talking, and he works with the people in the jail. So he makes discharge plans, kind of like you would in a hospital. What are you going to do when you come out? Do you have a place to stay? Do you have food? Do you have clothing? Sometimes they have to go to the homeless shelter. Other times we can find a place to put them until they can get an apartment of their own. So in the meantime, we have clothes available. They can walk in when they get out of jail and go through our closet and see what we have. We have personal items as well, personal care items, shampoo, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste. Some of these people, I mean, obviously just have the clothes on their back that they went into jail with. And so they're going to need something if they're in the homeless shelter, especially. And then the recovery coach does take them to the food bank until they can get their food stamps and their money from social services. We help them with all that. Then we also go further. We will help them find a job. We let them come in and use our computers. We help them write resumes. But I have 6 employees plus myself. So there's 7 of us. That's not a lot of people. So we work tirelessly sometimes. And Julie can tell you, because she obviously is mostly Julia, but she does amazing things. She does amazing things. And I have seen Margaretville really get services quickly since Julia took over pretty much coordinating the Catskill Addictions Coalition mission. But so our agency also does in-school evidence-based programming. We do Too Good for Violence and Too Good for Drugs. We also do a program called Teen Intervene, and that's an early intervention evidence-based program for kids that are exhibiting. They don't necessarily have to be exhibiting use, but they might be having behaviors that could indicate that they might get in trouble or that they are using. So we actually do a screening with them. And if they are definitely what we would call, you know, addicted, then we do refer them for services, for treatment. I mean, we have so many services. Right now, we're doing trauma-informed care because we've had to switch to online Zoom. So you can go to our website and we have 12 different videos posted. It's all about trauma-informed care. mental health. And we are really getting into the ACEs, and I know Joyce, this is one of Joyce's pets. That's where I first heard about it, actually. So we have really put a lot of resources into working with the Delaware County ACEs Task Force, which it was newly developed and it has really taken off. And we have several people from the task force that just got trained in conscious discipline, which is a trauma-informed evidence-based program. So I could go on and on because we do a lot, but
Mary, why don't you just give everybody the website?
okay, it's adaconline.org.
And if someone is listening and they've heard all kinds of things that seem as though there may be some help for them somewhere, would that be the best place to start? Because there's too many, perhaps too many names and acronyms to remember. Would that be a good one? Would you say it again?
Yeah, it's adaconline.org. Yes, because we list other things, like we have things on there about the Catskill Addictions Coalition. Anytime we have events going on in the county that we feel would be helpful for people, we have the meetings listed online as well. We have resources, all kinds of resources on there. And if they just call our office, we can help them as well. And we help them with other things beside, the addiction, because they have other needs. They need clothing, they need food, they need apartments. So we will help them with whatever we can. And I know that Julia has the dream that I do. I would love to have sober housing someday.
Wonderful. I want to now thank all of you, Anne Barone for this beautiful play, the actors for the way they have been able to bring the characters to life on the screen. And though we would all love to be on our theater stage, there's not one of us, I think, that wouldn't wish that we could perform this play on our stage in our theater in Margaretville. We are truly grateful for the opportunity to work together alone on Zoom. And we want to thank Joe Piazek and WIOX for this creative collaboration, and our hosts, Arnie and Carol Schwartz, for their invitation to appear on Talk of the Town and Even the Score. And our technical consultant, Carl Bloat, who will prepare the recording of tonight's show for viewing online in a few days. And thank you so much to our panelists who have brought so much to the work that we've done, and you've just enhanced it tremendously. Thank you to our audience, whether you are listening on WIOX radio at 91.3 FM, streaming on wioxradio.org, or watching on MTC Channel 20. And until next time, please be safe. Please wear your mask. And please plan to vote, because we're all in this together.
This is Carol Schwartz.
And Arnie Schwartz.
And we've enjoyed bringing you this special production in collaboration with Open Eye Theater. We'll be back in 2 weeks.